Welcome to Travel with Sean. I'm Sean. Today we are in Pisa, Italy, exploring the historic sites.
We start our tour of Pisa at the Piazza dei Miracoli, or the Square of Miracles in English. It began in the mid 11th century, and many of these buildings were erected in the 12th century. The three main buildings that everyone comes to Pisa to see are the Baptistery, the Cathedral, and the Bell Tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Located in Tuscany, Italy, Pisa is famous worldwide for its leaning tower. The city is also home to the historic University of Pisa, which is one of the oldest universities in Europe, founded in the mid 14th century. Pisa had a primitive form of a university as early as the 12th century. The city's name comes from the ancient Etruscan language meaning mouth, because it's located at the mouth of the Arno River. After looking around in the Square of Miracles, I'd recommend walking on the city walls. You can climb up onto the walls near the baptistry. Walking on the city walls provides the opportunity to see many of the historic areas of the city, especially those that aren't as famous as the Square of Miracles. The Jewish cemetery in Pisa is one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in Europe, established around 1648 when the Jewish community received permission from the ruling Medici family to establish a cemetery outside the city walls. Jews were often required to bury their dead outside the city limits. The Jewish community in Pisa dates back at least to the 9th century. The cemetery is not only a burial place, but also a testament to the historical presence of Jews in Pisa. It reflects the community's cultural, religious, and social history over the centuries. You can get a good look at the Square of Miracles from this section of the city walls. Let's get a little closer, and I'll tell you more about this UNESCO World Heritage Site.
One of the main attractions in Pisa, historic sites, begin with the Square of Miracles. First on our left here, we have the Baptistery of St. John the Baptist. Construction was from 1252 to 1368, and this is where Galileo Galilei, the famous astronomer and scientist, was baptized. Next to it, we have the cathedral dedicated to St. Mary, which was completed in 1092 and consecrated as a cathedral in 1118. This is where Galileo worshipped. Beyond it, we see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which in Italian is Il Campanile, which is the bell tower, detached bell tower for the cathedral. And Galileo, well, first let me tell you that they started building it in 1172 when a widow donated money. It took after about 6 years of construction, they noticed that it was starting to lean. It took about 2 centuries to finish. And Galileo climbed up there with cannonballs, two cannonballs of different masses, dropped them, testing a theory of the influence of mass in acceleration. We're on the Pisa city wall, next to the Baptistery and Cathedral. We're going to walk down the medieval city wall about 3 kilometers to the Arno River. And then we're going to get off and see some more historic sites. Here we can see what's left of the 1st century Roman Baths of Nero. They date back to the time of the Emperor Domitian. They're called the Baths of Nero, but Domitian had the martyr of this city, Santorpe, beheaded and put his head at the bath, and then put his body with a dog and a rooster in a boat, and left that boat on the river Arno at the mercy of the currents. And it sailed across the Mediterranean Sea to France. And where it landed, they named the city after this saint. And that city is now known as Saint-Tropez. This is the church of San Zeno. They started construction in the year 1029. This is the oldest church in Pisa. And in the past, this area was known as Le Grotte, which leads archaeologists to believe that there used to be a Roman amphitheater here. They have not yet found traces of it, but that name leads them to believe it.
The church is an example of Romanesque architecture, which was prevalent in Pisa during the 11th and 12th centuries. It was initially part of a Benedictine monastery by the same name. Saint Zeno was born in the 4th century in North Africa and was martyred in Verona, Italy. To Catholics, he is the patron saint of fishermen, anglers, and the city of Verona. Pisa likely originated in the 6th century BC. In the 9th century AD, it was captured by Vikings, led by Björn Ironside. From the 11th century into the 15th century, Pisa was an independent country. But wars in the 15th and early 16th centuries put it under the control of wealthy families in Florence. Pisa was annexed by the Duchy of Florence in 1406, ending its independence. Fosso del Molino, or Mill Canal, was so named because of the nearby mill. Small boats were plentiful on the Mill Canal, transporting goods and people to Pisa, mostly to go to the nearby mill. Though the mills have long since closed, the canal remains a significant part of the city's heritage. This is Piazza delle Gondole, so named because gondolas were commonly used. It was here where people parked their boats to go to the nearby mill. Construction of the city walls of Pisa was initially begun in 1154 and completed in 1161, completely surrounding the city. The walls were built as a defensive measure to protect the city and its important port from potential invaders and attacks. Over time, the walls were expanded and reinforced during periods of conflict and strategic planning, reflecting the city's historical importance and the need for defense. Now it is an important attraction for tourists and historians alike. The city of Pisa was established as a port town along the Arno River, which provided a vital connection to the Mediterranean Sea. Its location facilitated trade and maritime activities, contributing significantly to the city's historical development and prosperity. The riverside location often attracted affluent residents, merchants, and artisans who sought proximity to trade routes and urban amenities. Among the historic buildings along the Arno is the Palace of the Vice Legate. It was built in the 16th century and served as the residence of the Vice Legate, a representative of the Papal States. The building later became a customs house before being repurposed as the State Archives, where it now houses historical documents and records. Palazzo Lanfreducci was designed in 1583 for Francesco de' Medici, the second Grand Duke of Tuscany. The Medici family were prominent patrons of the arts and sciences during the Renaissance period in Italy. While not exclusively a royal residence, it served as a significant center of cultural and political activity in Pisa during that time. From here, Galileo made astronomical observations and came up with his astronomical theories. It is now the National Museum of the Royal Palace. Chiesa de Santa Maria della Spina, meaning Church of St. Mary of the Thorn, was built in about 1230 and originally called Santa Maria di Ponte Novo, meaning St. Mary of the New Bridge, because it was built near a new bridge. The church was renamed in 1333 after receiving a thorn from Jesus' crown of thorns, which was rehoused in 1871. It is a small church covering only about 3,700 square feet, with statues attributed to Andrea and Nino Pisano, the father and son who built the pulpits in the Baptistery and the Cathedral. Knight Square became the main administrative center of the Pisa government in the 12th century and was the heart of the city. It was here that a representative of Florence proclaimed the end of Pisa's independence in 1406. In the mid-16th century, the square was redesigned to be used by the Knights of St. Stephen for various military and administrative functions. That's also when Palazzo della Carovana was built, with Carovana referring to the training of the Knights of St. Stephen. Its exterior designs were created by scratching away the top layer of plaster to reveal a different color underneath. Included are numerous coats of arms of noble families and dignitaries connected to the order, and important events and figures related to the history of the Knights of St. Stephen and of the palace itself. This palace served as the headquarters for the Knights of St. Stephen, with a grand central staircase and a large statue of their founder, Cosimo de' Medici, the second Duke of Tuscany and first Grand Duke of Tuscany. The building is now the Superior Normal School of Pisa, a university founded by Napoleon Bonaparte. The palace also contains 6 niches with busts of the Dukes of Tuscany, because Pisa was part of the Duchy of Tuscany. The coat of arms in the middle is for the Knights of St. Stephen, which incorporates the Medici coat of arms. This is the Church of the Order of St. Stephen, which was an association of knights organized to defend the Mediterranean coasts against Ottoman and pirate attacks. This was a military order with monastic rules requiring members to take vows similar to those of the monks. Palace of the Council of 12 was headquarters for one of the governing bodies of the Republic of Pisa. The Palace of Canons was a residence and administrative center for the order's clergy members who were responsible for the Church of the Order. The clock palace was created in the 17th century by combining 2 medieval towers. The Order of the Knights of St. Stephen was a military and religious order founded in 1561 by Cosimo de' Medici, Grand Duke of Tuscany. It was named in honor of Pope Stephen I, the patron saint of the Medici family. The order's primary missions were 1. Defend the Mediterranean region from the Ottoman Turks and Barbary pirates. 2. Protect Christian maritime trade routes. And 3. Spread and defend the Christian faith. The Madonna of the Coachman is a relief sculpture where coach drivers used to stop to pray for safe travels. This house is believed to be Galileo's birthplace. The plaque reads that Vincenzo Galilei, Galileo's father, lived here, quote, when the great Galileo was born, end quote. This serves as an historical marker for visitors and scholars interested in Galileo's early life. The plaque was installed by the city of Pisa in 1942 on the 300th anniversary of Galileo's death. The house was built in the late 15th century, and the family moved here in the 1560s when Vincenzo became a music teacher at a nearby monastery. The house has been receiving preservation care ever since Galileo became a renowned mathematician and scientist. Giardino Scoto, meaning Scoto Park, became a city park in 1936. In 1095, this was the location of a church. In the 13th century, craftsmen had their workshops here, and in the 14th century, foundries here were making bells. In the late 15th century, nobility from Florence chose this location for building their fortress. The fortress was torn down in 1785 to make way for a mansion for Domenico Scoto, for whom the park is named, as his descendants were the ones who sold the land to the city. In the park, we can see ruins of the old church and ruins of a spa that was here in the 16th century. More notably is this yellow structure that looks like maybe it is part of the Roman aqueduct or maybe the Medici aqueduct of the 16th century. In reality, it is neither of those. It's an elevated walkway built in the 18th century at the request of Domenico Scotto for the purpose of enjoying the landscape of Pisa and Tuscany. This is where he built what he called his Garden of Delights. This caught our eye as we were exploring the area around the Scotto Park. It turns out they were hosting Italy's traveling pizza festival. This is an event in various northern cities of Italy, created specifically to highlight the goodness and simplicity of its pizza. At this event, hosted for a weekend in several northern Italian cities from April through July, they showcase various types of national pizzas and various other foods, along with the best pizza chefs of the national territory, including the Italian champion, the European champion, and the freestyle pizza champion. It's fun to watch a pizza champion at work, showcasing his skills from forming the crust from a lump of dough, to adding the ingredients, to baking it in a portable wood-fired oven. Now I can sit down and enjoy this pizza that has been made by hand by a master chef just for me. Don't worry, I'm not eating 2 pizzas. This is a meal for 2. And it is delicious with every bite.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for traveling along with me. As always, I appreciate your support. Until next time, ciao, arrivederci, bye bye.